This video is like a snapshot in time. I'm using version 7.9.3.20 of the pre-release Rootsmagic 8 software. It's now 12th of August. This last update was 21st of July 21. I've checked this morning and there's no other updates available, so I don't know how significant this version will be. So this is just a collection of my own opinions, my own experience, some ideas for the future, some deficiencies compared to Rootsmagic 7, and inevitably some bugs that I encountered along the way. This video is going up on YouTube unlisted. I'll email a link to Rootsmagic support and some other outlets. Following the release of Rootsmagic 8, I'll probably go and make it listed so that others can find it then. The video's not as short as I would have hoped. It's actually running to about 30 minutes, but there's a lot to cover. So here's a family in the old Rootsmagic 7 view where you have a husband, you have the wife, and then you have the children from that partnership. And we have the little 2 up here which tells us there's another spouse. And if we go to that, we see that there's one child from that other spouse. Let's have a look at the Rootsmagic 8 view. Again, we're here. There's no little thing for the spouses here, but if we look over to the side, we see that there's 2 spouses. And we can switch to that other spouse. So spouses again, have to click James, spouses again, Agnes Rob, and we see the children. So in Family Historian, here's the same family. So James and Nancy, one child, then James and Agnes with their children. If we look at Heredis, I think it's an even nicer view. So here's James, and here's his 2 spouses. First of all, Nancy. Secondly, Agnes. And here are all of the children from James's relationships. Now you see the little arrow here and highlighting this person. If I click to Agnes, we move over and we highlight these people. So these are the people from the second relationship. This is the child from the first relationship. I actually quite like that view, and it's nice and compact too. So my first item, which I doubt is even on Rootsmagic's radar, is have you ever tried to resize this window? Look, the delays. I'm trying to fit this into the screencast window. Look, and I can't. I'm very hesitant, jerky, no idea. Look, oh, no idea really where we're going to land. This is a new view, and this is talked about years ago. I kind of envisaged that this would be a dashboard, which is in most modern software, and I envisaged links here to maybe broken media links, problems, different things that you could have where you can provide a statistic for it, and you can also provide a link to the resolution center for that item. This is the dashboard view in Heredis 2021. And there's different tabs up here. Now, not everything's linked. These names are linked. So you can see the names. This is the most popular name in the database, Stevenson. Records, a few graphs. Move over to file information. I can see what I started this 3 months ago. Gender split. Oh, there's a nice one. Percentage of geolocated places. So 429 are geolocated and 725 are not geolocated. Wonder is that linked? Nope. So you can just turn things on and off here. But being able to link out to resolution centers from a dashboard view would be very advantageous. Statistics. Again, here's the most common surname, Stevenson being the most common one. Here we can turn off United States, we can turn off Canada, we can turn off United Kingdom, and here's our Ireland, England and Scotland breakdown, with Scotland being the lowest percentage. That's interesting. I thought I'd done more research in Scotland, but they do charge quite heavily for their records outside of Ancestry. There's 2 operations I do quite often in edit person screens in Rootsmagic, and we can all judge everybody's workflow is different. I can only concentrate on the things I do and the snags that I'm now finding in Rootsmagic 8. So the first one is attaching media. This is an extraction of my database, so it doesn't matter what I do to it. So let's say I say occupation here, and I click on the media. Here we have the media album for James and his occupation. and I identify a file and I click it in Explorer and I drag it over. You can see the little plus symbol there, and I just let go. Hey presto, file is attached. So let's try that same operation in Rootsmagic 8. So here's James. Let's go down, let's pick the same fact because we don't want to confuse matters. Here's the media album, or whatever you would like to call this. Here's the same file. I drag it over and you can see the little no-go sign there, which is on the media gallery. I'll zoom in on that and highlight it. So that's not going to be allowed to happen. I'll let go of it, but it's not happening. Okay, so the extra steps now, and this is where Rootsmagic 8 really starts to put me to sleep, because I'm not going to go through extra steps and jump through extra hurdles. So it was nice and quick in Rootsmagic 7. I would expect it to be at least as quick in Rootsmagic 8. So I click on the plus symbol here, and now that's the first click, and now here's a second click, drop new media. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up the file now and drop it here. You can see outside of this little box we have the no-go sign. Inside the little box, and off it goes. It says one media file added. Okay, so let's close that, and there's a media file. Now that required 2 extra clicks to get to that stage. That's really not necessary. Another thing I do quite often in my workflow is I share census records, and I share them with all of the family members. So what I would normally do is resize this a little bit, move it out of the way so that I can see the record numbers of these children. Now James never made it to the 1901 census, so I think I'm going to share his occupation. So here, share this event, add multiple people. So this time I'm going to hit the record button, but I use Alt-R when I'm doing it for real. So I'll click the record number 9626, hit the space bar. Now Alt-R, I'm going to do 9795, hit the space bar. 9846, hit the space bar. I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't need to go on. Then hit OK. And now what I can do is I can go in and I can edit these witnesses. I can call them, well, I don't have any roles designed for that, so, but that's how it would work in Rootsmagic 7. So let's try that in Rootsmagic 8. Here we found the same sort of fact. Well, it might not be exactly the same occupation. And we look around, where's the share? Well, first of all, I'm going to have to move down here. Here's shared here, so I'll click on that. I'll click on the second click, share a fact. We have select witness. We have just type a name. We have the roles down here. But there's absolutely no add multiple people. So let's try record numbers 9626. How do I select that? So I'm hitting the enter key, which is doing nothing. I'm hitting the space bar, which is doing nothing apart from adding spaces in the search. So I'm guessing I add the role and then click OK, and that's one share. Okay, and I'm going to have to do that I'm going to have to add another share and do 9795 and then do OK, and then do 9846 and again OK. That's very long-winded, much more long-winded than Rootsmagic 7 was, and not acceptable for the future. Certainly not acceptable to me for the future. Now there's a strange bug, and one that I hadn't sort of noticed before or thought to report before, but I did have a filter on here in couple view and I removed it, but I noticed that I was having difficulty locating the person that I wanted to show you, and I've noticed that mouse wheel up is taking the file up, but also mouse wheel down is taking the file up. Now, that's a new one on me. Let me try that in RM7 because that's a weird one. Just to rule out a system error. You know, people will always say, oh, it could be something to do with your system, could be your drivers, blah 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 blah. So how you get here in Rootsmagic 7 is search and family list. I always hated that I had to resize this sort of column to make sure and get everything in. So this is mouse wheel down, and we're going down the file alphabetically. Mouse wheel up, and we're going up the file alphabetically. I'll switch immediately back to Rootsmagic 8. That's mouse wheel up, and we are going up the file. Then mouse wheel down, and we're still going up the file. There's lots still to be done in Rootsmagic 8. So I've had to apply a filter here to get James and Agnes in focus on the couple list because of that scroll wheel problem. So here they are, and if I look in the right hand panel, I can see spouses 2, which is good because there is 2 spouses. I can see the 2 spouses here. I can see parents if I choose, but you notice nowhere here I'm seeing children. So let me have a look at RM7 again. So RM7, here's the same relationship, and let's face it, you only have children in one relationship or the other. So on the right hand panel we have James, we have Agnes, and we have their 6 children. So in RM8 I need to click spouses. I need to click the children tab for each spouse, and that shows me the children. Why they can't just show that in a single list? How do I get back out of this? I'm back out of it now. Spouses. So Nancy, the one child, which is Thomas. I find it all very confusing, as I can't reiterate enough that here we are in RM7. Partnership, children. The only thing that's missing here is I'd like to see some places alongside these children, but you've got the names, you've got the record numbers, etc, etc. I think just Rootsmagic 8 has made this unnecessarily difficult. I always seem to end up in mapping, and today's no different. So here's Belfast. I've zoomed in on this cemetery in Belfast where you can see the actual plots. So if I click on this, I get this nice little list of who's buried in that particular plot, which is fine. But what I need to do now is I want to go to Mary Jane tomorrow and make a few edits. And no amount of double clicking is going to do that. Is there any other buttons about that I'm missing? There's an edit here. What's that going to do? That's not doing anything at the moment. So I can't move to edit the person. Let's have a look at Rootsmagic 7. Same plot. This window was never really acceptable, you know, because it wasn't you couldn't resize it or do anything with it. So, but there's Mary Jane up there again. No amount of double clicking is going to let me edit that person. Here we are in Family Historian. Let's look at this event down here. We've got 2 people in Weymouth, Dorset, England. Well, by the way, this I can resize this whatever size I want, and it remembers it. So this first person, I'm going to double click it. And there's the edit person screen. That link is broken. Was always broken in Rootsmagic 7, and it's still broken. That link to editing the person is still broken in Rootsmagic 8. So we're back to the main places view, and I have to say I like the latitude longitude. I like the seeing what details there is. I know I'm saying I just have a third dislike for this sliding panel business, you know, where and you can see on this screen this is done 1920 by 1080. I know some people are working on laptops, but even on my laptop I have a lot of white space about, and then I have to go back here, and I'm going to point something out in Family Historian, and it's basically an expanding node design rather than this sliding panel design, and I think it would work much better. And this actually is slow and sluggish as well. So in Family Historian, this is on the what they call their people view. What they don't call people view, it's a records window. But I can go up and down here with my arrow keys, and if I want to see more on that, I just hit the right arrow key. I'm expanding nodes all the time. If my memory serves me correctly in places, back around Family Tree Maker 2012, they had a system like this. I can't remember how it was functioned, whether you could do it with the arrow keys quickly or not, but it expanded the places into the constituent parts. If we're in Windows Explorer, that's exactly what we do. We open up nodes, so it's completely familiar to people. I do believe I have submitted this to Rootsmagic, this expanding node system, to show place details or details within a place, and then navigate down further, seeing the data to the right here. To me, that's a far better design than this sliding panel. I just have a real aversion to the sliding panel, I have to say, but then I'm not using it as much as some users are. I'm not going to make any comment or input on sources. There are people out there that are far better qualified than I am to comment and make suggestions for sources. So on to media. So here's a broken link, and I still yearn for a filter, a simple checkbox to only show broken links so that you can work through and resolve them. Now I have to say, the design here with the full path here, this is much easier to remedy broken links than it was in Rootsmagic 7, because what I can do is I can locate the file in a find everywhere utility, and I can just copy and paste the new sort of location in here, or even the new file name if it's a changed file name. Family Historian 6 does not have a utility to find broken links, but Family Historian 7 does have a checkbox where you can just show broken links and work through resolving them. So I'd like to see that in Rootsmagic, and hopefully it'll come in time. Moving to this view, you do see things here like broken links, and that's where this filter would be very useful, but it's not here at the moment, and that's it. The only thing I'd probably like to be able to turn the I don't seem to be able to turn the thumbnail look off, and just perhaps have the file name and the comment. Yes, I needed to check there. Back in Rootsmagic 7 we did have the caption being available here, so that was very useful. Just for the interest of die-hard Rootsmagic people, this is Family Historian, and you can see I not only have the who it's attached to, I have the record ID, I have the type, format, the year, it was the year that I've assigned to it when I put it in, how many links there are, and the full file name, and I can find anywhere within there. Now up the top here I can have a media list of all individual media, all family media, all event fact media, all place media, all source media, and new unlinked media, which I have none in this file. So I'll take that filter off, and here I can have audio, and there's some audio files that I have. Duplication here is coming from Rootsmagic, unfortunately. I also need to say I can sort on any of these columns just by clicking on the header row, something that really you can't do in Rootsmagic. These all have the expanding node system as well, so if I go down I can open several nodes and look at more details if I so wish. So there's probably still a lot to be done in Rootsmagic Media Gallery, and hopefully there's promise there for the future. Another great annoyance for me in the computer world of Rootsmagic 8 is I've went to the trouble of putting my media folder in here. So I've told Rootsmagic where I keep my media. Why has Rootsmagic not populated that here by default? So anyway, let's move past that. So I select a drive. It's still not populated. I'm going to click on the folder search here, and Rootsmagic drops into the database folder rather than the media folder. Again, all you're doing is wasting my time here. You know, if I go to the trouble of putting my media folder location into settings, I expect you to at least respect that and take me straight there as a default. Navigating to where it is again is just a waste of my time, a waste of any user's time, so that's something that you need to address. So let's search. It took a little while, but it's finished. So there were 0 broken media links fixed. What I would like to see here, see where this says this 3809 links not fixed? Just hyperlink that. Hyperlink that. Let me click it. Take me to a broken down or a filtered list of all those, and let me work through resolving them. Tasks I simply can't work with. I've tried and I can't. I will highlight what I think are some of the limitations here. I think basically it's screen layout, and this sort of hovering over and seeing a bubble thing for each task is no substitute for RM7 seeing the whole thing right in front of you as you navigate up and down the list. So hovering over each one to see what it contains just in case is certainly I can't work with it, and it's one of the things I did use a lot in Rootsmagic 7. So here I want to, there's a filter here, and I'm going to type in baptisms. I'm just going to type in baptism actually. And do we have any results? It appears that we don't. Now this is folders, which is research manager. Let me do the same thing back in Rootsmagic 7. There's a search box here. So yes, there's a lot of these contain the word baptism. Let's try another one, baptism. The problem is this does the search and searches within research logs. Rootsmagic 8 doesn't. So Rootsmagic 8 says there is no tasks. It's searched and there's nothing. The other problem I find is that in this search for tasks itself, which tasks are now the old to-dos, so if I put baptism in there, the only thing it searches is the actual name, the task name. So it's found it here. It doesn't search within the tasks to give you all of the tasks that actually are anything to do with baptisms. Rootsmagic 7 didn't have a filter there for searching within, but you can see by the way I've named these with A's, B's, all sorts of naming systems, and the naming systems are basically a workaround to overcome the fact that you can't search within tasks or priority. You can't sort of, you can change the different priorities. You can just have priority 1, and that's fine. But still, this is listed alphabetically, and you can't search within those priority to say, for example, Antrim Parish. You can't search reference number here. I would probably put in here Antrim, comma, baptism. I'm going to make up a name, Rothbottom, and I click OK to that. So if I'm researching this family, the Rothbottom family, and baptisms, I would like to see everywhere that I have a task that contains that. Let me show you a little demonstration. So I've plugged those 3 terms into Find Everywhere. And by the way, Find Everywhere doesn't find everywhere. We'll touch on that in a moment. But I plugged those 3 sort of criteria into Find Everywhere, and after searching supposedly the complete database, here in tasks, there's the task that we just put in the reference number, and if we click on that, hopefully it should take us to that task. So how do I get to the task from here? I'm going to need to try that in Rootsmagic 7. So here we are in the same results in Rootsmagic 7, and again I'm going to have to click this to see what happens. Takes me to the actual to-do. So that's another broken link in Rootsmagic 8 to be repaired. I said before that Find Everywhere doesn't find everywhere, so I've put in Bally ALB, which is part of a place name, part of a place detail actually in Ireland. To the search, I'm going to cut to the end here. So here we are at the results, and you can see there's in places it's noted twice. It's a place detail, so it's also noted inside a place detail note. Now the data is not native to Family Historian, but the database is the same. So let's have a look at the results there. and you can see here it matches 44. Now that's not really fair, because Family Historian does not treat my addresses as a single address. It's a single instance in each case, so there's multiples here. But the one interesting thing I would point out is Family Historian is finding it in file names that are in the media gallery, whereas Rootsmagic is not. Let's quickly look at the other searches available. So name search is okay for me. Let's just do Thomas Serge, do search. And here it's found all the possible matches with Thomas and S-U-R-G in the surname. That's pretty good. I like it. Advanced search, I don't like at all. This is much more difficult to populate, and this is something I used a lot in Rootsmagic 7. And we still in Rootsmagic haven't got to the place where we can actually store queries and repeat them easily, and let's hope that does come. It's a long time coming. Let's hope it comes in the very near future for Rootsmagic users. So my problem here is the way I populate this. Let me show you first of all how I would populate this in Rootsmagic 7. I do Control F, Alt F, and I start typing. So BR place details, hit plot twice, contains cemetery, and I move down again. This is the tab key taking me down, and I just compile this very quickly. So burial place details contains cemetery. Now I don't get a full list. I have to go next through them all. That's fine, but it's populating that query is the important thing. Let me look at Rootsmagic 8 again. So I'll do the service of clicking in the first field. So burial, what's this? I don't have burial. What did I do wrong? B-U-R, no. So I know exactly what I'm doing wrong. So I have to now click B to get me to the start of the B's, and then arrow down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to get the burial. Then I need to tab across, place details, tap twice, P, doesn't work. So I have to put P and then move my finger to the arrow key or the mouse and select place details. Then I have to select OK and tab down into the value. Actually I've got equals there, but it doesn't matter. What I'm saying is I can't compile this quickly at all. It's just, I don't like using the word dysfunctional, but it's extremely deficient compared to Rootsmagic 7. That's what I'm going to say. So I wouldn't be using this. This was as close as you could get, and obviously I became very familiar with it over very many years, and I can compile it very quickly. The only thing that was missing in Rootsmagic 7, and it's still missing in Rootsmagic 8, is the ability to save the query and use it again, exactly the same query again. In Family Historian, this particular query I have because I want every one of certain names, and I want all of their family members, including spouses, and that query for someone doing a one name study and having multiple unconnected trees is just not possible in Rootsmagic. This here gives me exactly what I need to upload to Ancestry. But the beauty about this, and where Rootsmagic really need to introduce this, and I say really need to introduce this because it was promised back at the release of Rootsmagic 4, which is back in 2008, and it still hasn't come. But I go here and I say save as custom query. I just call it whatever I want, and when I come back, here's my drop down list, here's all my queries, here's missing census. I'm going to run that, Eagleton United, so this is very quick, and this is a space that Rootsmagic really needs to step into. I think that finishes the tabs. I'm not going to talk about publishing. I know that there's several things missing, custom reports being one, perhaps publisher is missing, and I've also read that there's problems with several of the reports that are obviously being worked on at the moment, so I'm not going to talk further about that. I also read that a lot of people are having trouble with tree share, and some people aren't, and it's family search, so there's still lots to be done in Rootsmagic 8 by the looks of things. I felt the need to come back and record this very important insert, so I guess I'm going to run over my 30-minute target length now. It's a very good example of how Rootsmagic 8 has become much more clicky. and in many ways less efficient for the end user. The whole goal was to try and flatten the interface and make things more productive, but it's failing in many aspects. Now, this issue was reported before the beginning of the community preview. Rootsmagic are well aware of it. I'm not saying they're dismissing it, but there's been no real commitment to resolving it. So here's my example. We're in the place list. I've got Belfast, and I want to create a place report for Belfast. I click on print. I click on generate report. That's 2 clicks. When the report viewer opens, things are a good size, easily legible. There's a lot of thumbnails down the left, and I can scroll up and down through the thumbnails. You can see this report runs to 347 pages in Rootsmagic 7. So I need to get it back quite quickly. Now here's the important bit. Here on the right, you've got a scroll bar. And I can quickly shoot down through this report to the alphabetic area that I want to be in. And then I can do more fine sort of adjustments with the mouse wheel up and down to get to the street or whatever, homing in the area. So let's have a look at the same thing in Rootsmagic 8, and I'm going to count the clicks. I know Rootsmagic don't like people counting clicks, but they do have to be counted. Extra clicks is extra time wasted. So here we are in the place list in Rootsmagic 8. I've got Belfast highlighted, so we're starting at the same point as we did in Rootsmagic 7. I want to check I'm not missing anything, so let me right click here first of all. There's no quick link there to print just events at that single place, so I'm not missing anything there. I go behind the 3 dots. The only option I have as regards print is to print places. So going back to here, I hit the 3 dots, that's click number 1. I hit print places, that's click number 2. I don't want to print all places, so I have to click here, that's click number 3. I have to select another option here, so that's click number 4. Events in a single place is click number 5. Select a place is click number 6. Now I either need to type or scroll down, bit of keyboard action. I hope I haven't lost count, so this is click number 7. OK here is click number 8. OK here is click number 9. And generate port is click number 10. I didn't lose count. I've sized this Rootsmagic 8 report viewer to full screen. I don't find this as legible for whatever reasons as the Rootsmagic 7. Let me just flick back. You can compare the two. So I don't find this as legible without starting to zoom and different things like that, which is more clicks. Thumbnails are on the left, and I can scroll down through the thumbnails. I can select the odd one, but this is like hit and miss, trying to guess what page number you want for a certain area. I can't scroll up and down. I'm scrolling up and down with my mouse now, and that's having absolutely no effect. Importantly, if you look to the right, there is no scroll bar to drag. So unlike Rootsmagic 7, I can't quickly shoot up and down through this report. So how do I find, out of those 300 plus pages, how do I quickly get to the page that I want? So apart from the 10 clicks that it took to get to this report, with no mouse wheel and no scroll bar, what can I say? It's useless to me. So remember, Rootsmagic 7, highlight the place, that's our starting point. Print, generate, report. What can be easier? Obviously the quickly moving about in the report. Rootsmagic need to get back to this degree of functionality, and they need to drastically reduce the number of clicks to achieve a lot of things in Rootsmagic 8. Just my opinion, but it's hard to defend anything that takes a lot of extra clicks to get there. So I hope for all you Rootsmagic users there's promise in the future. The only thing I can say is I'd love to come back to Rootsmagic in the future, but I still use 7. I use 7 for tasks and place details. I just can't get used to 8, and I find it much too clicky. The sliding panels doesn't do it for me. It's just not an efficient design, and it seems to be locked in, so there seems to be no hope of me in the immediate future. For all those other users who are forcing themselves to adapt to it, I do hope that things get better. And the only thing I can say is keep banging the drum, and hopefully Rootsmagic will respond. Anyway, happy hunting.